were bolstering the Islamic zealots in Afghanistan and opposing the Islamic zealots in neighboring Iran. Can you try to picture them trying to figure out what's our agenda? There's no consistency. There's no way to rationalize that. Well, that leads into what I call the incubation period. Because following the withdrawal of the Soviet troops, the Afghan Arabs, as they're called, but that's a term of the press. Most of these were no longer Afghans. They were from China, from all kinds of countries. They happened to have, what was in common was the Islamic teaching. But anyway, they called them Afghan Arabs, and that, of course, included bin Laden, who was not Afghan either. He's from Saudi Arabia. They went home. They drifted homeward because the big fight was over. But they all went home with a heightened perspective, not just of Afghan and the Soviet Union, but of Islam. And they also viewed countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, that they saw them as client regimes just like Afghanistan was. See, the war was all about Afghanistan being a client or a puppet of the Soviet Union. Boy, did we free them of their puppet master. But they turn around and look at Saudi Arabia and Egypt as clients of the U.S. from their point of view. They regarded that as, inappropriate, and they because these are young, trained, guerrilla-trained, indoctrinated young men, are increasingly vocal. But now they've been bonded together because they'd all shared in these camps together, and the camps are called madrasas, by the way, and training camps, where their camaraderie was welded not just for guerrilla tactics, but for Islamic indoctrination. And so they're all going home, and they're all increasingly vocal. Now, in 1990, we, of course, had the Kuwait crisis, and we're all familiar with it from our point of view. 540,000 non-Muslims, American troops, non-Muslim troops, were on Saudi Arabian soil. That is a violation, in their view, of Sharia law. That is, to have non-Muslims on Muslim soil under their own flag is considered a breach, especially to the pious ulemas, the religious scholars, and this is all a violation. So, in March of 1991, this growing discontent is intensified when the Pentagon failed to carry out the full withdrawal from the kingdom. The war was over. The U.S. had indicated they're going to withdraw the troops, and they don't. There's a lot of them left. So this is like a thorn in the side of the Muslims. Why don't they get out of there? Now, bin Laden is among these that is very, very outspoken on this, because he thinks it's the duty of Saudi Arabia, especially because they are the custodians for the most revered sites, Medina and Mecca, to be pure and not be compromised by these foreign, okay, maybe there's a need for now, but that need is over. Why aren't they going home? And he ended up being so outspoken on this, and I won't go through all the details, is that he ends up getting stripped of his citizenship of Saudi Arabia and expelled from the country. Now, he is in one of the most powerful, influential families. Mohammed bin Laden, his father, owns one of the largest construction companies that was selected to do the additions to the mosque in Medina and the mosque in Mecca. The profit on that project, not the project, the profit on the project was $90 million. And it would have been Osama bin Laden's deal if he'd stayed. But he clung to his political convictions, the purity of his position, and was stripped of his citizenship and expelled from the country. You may not agree with his views, but you got to respect the strength of his character. He was doing what he stuck to his gun. Now the storm clouds gather worse. By about December of 1991, of course, the Soviet Union is coming unwound, but this is a second wind to these radical mujahideens that are scattered around the Islamic community. Because now not only have they beat Afghanistan, but even the Soviet Union's come crashing down. Their mind is they can do the same thing with the West, because they're against the whole Western way of life. Now, in April of 1992, Mujahideen had seized power in Kabul. By 1994, the rise of a group of these, calling themselves the Taliban, Taliban just means the students, the rise of the Taliban movement. And by September of 1996, the Taliban had captured Kabul. And so that's the ruling group today. The Taliban. It stands for Students of Islam. It's an interesting name because most of these guys are alumni, if you will, of these training camps. So they learned all their skills and all their fundamentalism from from the madrasas that were there along the Pakistan border. Now, what they were trying to do, have been trying to do, is try to create what is for them the ideal Islamic community. So they're enforcing Sharia law, but they're doing it to an extreme that even shocks many of the Muslims. Punishments under Sharia law for infractions include imprisonment, beatings, amputations, or executions. As you may know, there are some Muslim countries where if you're caught stealing, they cut your hand off. First time I was in Algeria, many years ago, I was a consultant to the government for some things. The week I arrived there, a purse snatcher was executed because he was declared by the court as socially unredeemable. It happened to be his third offense, minor thing, but it was his third offense, and the court decided he was socially unredeemable, so I think they beheaded him, as I recall. Under Sharia law, in the Taliban, for them, music, television, smoking, even Western hairstyles are all illegal. Now, some of you probably have seen some. You say they probably should be. No, I'm kidding. Women have been barred from education and jobs. They're barred from school and work. And they are supposed to be accompanied by a man when they go out. They're not supposed to be out of the house without a man present. There's a long list. I've just selected a few of the other. Teaching religions other than Islam is not only punishable, it's punishable by death. Now, what the Taliban's also done, they've reopened all these training camps that are near the Pakistan border. These are the ones that were originally established by the CIA and the ISI. They opened them for guerrilla training, for fundamentalist indoctrination. And these camps are populated with volunteers from all over the world, places like China, Southeast Asia. Muslims, they're getting trained in all these political views as well as the guerrilla skills, how to make bombs and all that stuff. Give you another example of what's going on right now. You may have read about these 8 aid workers. Currently, there's 2 American women, 4 Germans, and 2 Australians that are being held on trial for spreading Christianity. These 8 were in the country as aid workers, helping to feed the Afghanis, who are starving, by the way.